Looking over feedback I received from various candidates as of recently, both successes but also failures, I noticed a trend and an interesting predictor of success with these people that I personally work with. And I noticed that without exception, these people never hurried up things. They didn't hurry while prepping their interview. They didn't hurry while, role playing in this case. And the context was, one of urgency for many of them. They had an interview prepared for less than 1 week, and they had only got started. I'm maybe a bit stretching things here, but the point is that it's not as if they prepared well in advance for their interviews. It's simply that they didn't have this sense of urgency. They didn't hurry things at all. And I wanted to bring to your attention 3 aspects here that you should consider, that I believe would help you to decide what's the best way. How do you significantly increase your chances to pass the job interviews? So first thing I'd like to talk about here is, while preparing for these job interviews, especially for the behavioral interviews, but even beyond, there is a fake sense of bar setting for behavioral interviews. Specifically, many people believe that you're going to be interviewed well behaviorally if you can answer any question you're getting asked, right? Whereas someone on the other side, an interviewer, would tell you that the reason why behavioral interviews are so efficient is because they come up with questions that pretty much anyone could answer, if you think a little bit about it. However, the difference is being made in the quality of the stories that you're presenting. Okay, so if you're preparing your interview in such a way that you are able to answer any question they throw at you, any behavioral question in particular, so you should know that's not the best way to go by far, right? This is a very reactive approach, and it's the old story, preparing a story bank versus answering behavioral questions like a trivia game. But being able to answer every single question is not the qualitative approach to prepare these interviews. And I did notice in people who fail these interviews a tendency that they try to over-prepare. They try to get Amazon's question banks. They try to answer each and every question there, and even repeatedly. It was very reactive. Whereas, the candidates whom I had best success with were, pretty reserved in this approach of answering as many questions as possible. They were also often overthinking on how to give the best possible answer to an interview question. I could spend more than 1 hour with someone to find what's the best way to communicate their weakness, if you want. Okay, so also very maybe relevant for you is that instead of trying to answer as many questions as possible, you could also look at what's a weakness that you obviously have. What's a gap in your interview prep? For example, technical people or people who have been working remotely for the past 4 years might not feel very comfortable answering interpersonal questions. Okay, so maybe also prepare on those gaps rather than having this fake bar setting in behavioral interviews, that of being able to answer any question thrown at you. Right? The second thing I'd like to talk about here is within the job interview. So answering quickly interview questions means a reactive approach, right? So the benefit of this apparently would be that you could sound more credible, right? This is, if you answer questions on the spot, you could sound more credible versus someone who takes 15 seconds to, come up with an answer for that interview. But my question here to you, is your point while interviewing to be credible? Because many times, they would believe you that you've done that thing, but the bar is not there. The difference is being made giving the best possible answer, not the quickest possible answer. So maybe your answers are unintelligible, or maybe your answers are too short. Since you speak too fast, for instance, New Yorkers tend to have this problem. Or maybe your answers would simply be better if you took your time to answer them to find the best story around them, right? And I also have a question for you. Can you sell yourself for 7 minutes straight on your best story, the best story that you have? Could you talk about it for 7 minutes straight without rambling? Oftentimes, this will open some new ways to think about how do you improve the quality of your answers in job interviews. And the third thing, last but not least, I want to talk about here is that there is a very common downside as to interviewing fast that I've heard a number of times from candidates, from, if I may add, exceptionally qualified candidates, that they simply did monumental mistakes. During the heat of the moment, the interviewer set a trap for them, as it happens, for more senior executive types of roles, and they simply took the bite, And what's even also interesting here, most of the time you get it on the spot. Now, hopefully, that's not going to be an interview ending type of mistake, but it could well happen that you interview so quickly that you don't even realize when you do these monumental mistakes, which are also, another reason why you should really reconsider your interviewing techniques. So, long story short, it's not as if I'm saying for the first time that do not hurry in job interviews. This is, pretty generic advice. But more interestingly, people who interview slowly on purpose, and people who prepare, slowly on purpose for that reason, not have to hurry up with these things, tend to have significantly better outcomes. Okay, so hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.